let's do this. So Anna, you're a teacher. Tell me about the best parts of your job.
The best parts of being a teacher. The best parts of being a teacher are clearly just the relationships that you have with kids. So it's the amount of time that you get to spend with them, watching them grow and watching them do things that you...
Well, we're out here in the rain. That's okay.
Is watching them do things that you've helped them to create, and that sense of pride that they get from being able to do something, or that sense of pride that they get when they get really excited to show you something that they've created either for you or for someone else or for themselves, and watching them grow that kind of empathy and that kind of self-learning is by far my favourite thing about my job.
And teaching is hard, can be hard. What are some of the things that get you to tipping point?
The hardest things about teaching are also the kids on some days. So that constant need for reassurance and that constant pressure to nurture all of their parts of them, to recognise all of their different learning capabilities. And while that bit's hard, it's actually quite enjoyable to do and to plan for. And then we get the other stuff, the pressures from admin, the amount of paperwork and the individual records that you have to keep for each one, how you have to turn your planning into different differentiation models, how you have to implement that, how you have to prove that, the 16 meetings that you've got to have about those, out of class time, the 45 staff meetings a year, and then, there's all those other things that other teachers do, that like Saturday sport, that's all on top of everything that they do. So the time pressure is by far the hardest thing, and finding that time to not have to put that aside and to be, no, that's not what I need right now, what I need is something else. And so those time pressures that exist from external forces, from the teacher, from outside of your classroom, they are by far the hardest thing that we deal with, and sometimes parents, but most of the time it's the external forces.
Love it. What do you do to recharge or to fill your bucket, particularly in those times of stress? But what do you do as a human, as a teacher, to make things a little easier for yourself?
Oh, cups of tea. Cups of tea are what I do to refill that bucket, and the people that I have cups of tea with. So every morning I'm at work that little bit earlier so that I can have a cup of tea with my teacher aide. So my teacher aide in my classroom, she has all of the same pressures that I do. She works with the same kids that I do, but she gets paid about a quarter of the amount, and life sometimes can be really tough for both of us. So that 20 minutes of a morning where we get to sit down and ask each other how we are and talk to each other as real people, not as people who have to deal with other people's kids today. That 20 minutes and that cup of tea is my favourite part of my day, and if I didn't have it, I'm not sure I would be as good a teacher. I'm certainly sure I would not be as good a human, but I make sure that every day that there is that 20 minutes, and sometimes that 20 minutes turns into 5, sometimes it turns into 10, other mornings it turns into half an hour, but it's really important that if we don't, we find it somewhere in the day to spend time with each other to make sure that we're okay as humans.
Love it. And last but not least, Pigeon Parcels was created to share a bit of love for those teachers who love teaching. What do you think about the idea behind Pigeon Parcels?
Pigeon Parcels is going to make my life easier. All of those times where you have those conversations and you're handwriting notes and you're sending presents to other teachers, because teaching, unlike any other job in the whole entire world, we rely on each other a lot. And sometimes we take for granted all of that help that those teachers give us. So all of the time that they spend with you, all of the time that they give you resources, or that you're sharing resources, or they're running into your class to cover your class because you need to go to the toilet, all of those little things where we rely on each other so much. And sometimes I forget, because we're so busy, that we don't say thank you for those things. And then when you do say thank you, you're like, oh, I don't know, what do I get them? You can't buy them another coffee mug because, we have thousands of those. Nobody wants any more of those. It's inappropriate to give wine in the middle of a school day. But by far my favourite thing to receive as a teacher is those tiny little special things that just sort of show up. And the presents that you find on your desk, and the little handwritten scribbled notes and those sorts of things. So I think Pigeon Parcels will allow me to do that, but on a much bigger scale. So I will be able to send a present to somebody in their pigeonhole with a little note, and they will get it, and it won't be at a time where it's like a really immediate reaction, and I can send them just because those people have been really helpful for a whole month and maybe not being so specific. And I don't have to do it. I can do it on my phone and just send it and it will arrive. So it will fix a little bit of that time, but I think I'll still get that joy of giving, and then those people will also have that thoughtfulness that I think we really need to make sure we nurture in our job.
Love it. Thank you.